think while it's still legal. What did he say? Today's culture, Sunrise Lounge, is nothing short of intellectual tyranny. You got to think a certain way. You got to say the right things. Even if you don't stand for those values, you have to signal those virtues anyway. Yo, welcome to the Postmodern Frontier. I've got everything for you, from leftist extremism and morality 2.0 to God is dead, to the antidote to wokeism. I figured it out for you. If you haven't seen the cinematic trailer yet for this episode, though, check it out. Top right-hand corner of this card here. Speaking of cool stuff, high quality and efficiency, S-tier content, I am a big fan of classic boxing. I love the fight science, as they call it, the sweet science. I want to do a classic this corner, that corner fighter's introduction. And the two ideas that are going to battle today on this Postmodern Frontier are modernism and postmodernism, or intellectual tyranny versus Enlightenment reason, modern nihilism and narcissism versus rationale and evidence-based thinking and skepticism. Let's get to the introductions. You've heard it, wokeism. It's that cringeworthy catch-all term for anything anti-Christian, anti-conservative, anti-traditional. Now, we in the Sunrise Lounge, we pride ourselves on being skeptical. We encourage discourse and the free exchange of ideas, even dangerous ideas, one side or the other. So if something red flags you, that's good. Examine why. It's what we do here in the Sunrise Lounge. Asking why accomplishes two essential outcomes. Number one, it helps you stay smart by making it possible to learn and grow. And then number two, if done right, it reinforces your existing belief system that you've been hard at work solidifying through dissent and skepticism. It reproves proven things. Now, as that major fan of fight science, let's get to the introductions of Enlightenment reason versus leftist, post-liberal, super modern wokeism. So, Enlightenment reason versus 20th century narcissism, aka super leftist extremism, wokeism, postmodernity, postmodernism, 20th century nihilism. It's these ideas of rational thought and reason versus everything has infinite reasons and infinite ways of looking at them, and there's no moral standard. Now, for the Enlightenment side, number one, there's a pathological aversion to presumption and assumption. You don't assume anything. You examine everything. There's the free discourse, the free exchange of ideas. Be philosophical dissenter. You want to think for yourself. The big difference between Enlightenment and postmodernism is that there's this inducement of moderation versus the intolerant spirit, which has at all times characterized political parties. That literally is Federalist number one, and it explains exactly what's going on right now. The people, the influencers, the systems of control in place demand toleration, inclusivity, equity, diversity, but it's rooted in an intolerant, unmoving, reductive spirit. Now, here's a quote. Check this out. Federalist number one, in politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and sword. Heresies in either can rarely be cured by persecution. Think while it's still legal. I said it, and that's what I mean. You are being persecuted for thinking for yourself. You're being persecuted for being intolerant by an intolerant power system. Now, where did they get it wrong? You'll hear that in the previous episode, so definitely just go watch it. I mean, listen, I'll wait. Yeah. There you have it. Sunrise Lounge. Enlightenment reason, aka modernism. Fighter number two today. Postmodernism, or nihilistic narcissism. And we'll explain exactly how we get there, but to introduce the fighter, no universal truth. That's the base standard, which is itself a universal truth. No universal right or wrong. No universal moral or intellectual standard, even though they push an intellectual standard. I'm getting ahead of myself. Infinite ways of perceiving a finite number of problems, aka life. And while that may be true, the biggest problem is that there are infinite solutions and perceptions, but there's an extremely limited, if not one viable truth, one viable perception. And then lastly, it brought the rise of deconstruction and living your truth. You are both your own existence and your own context. You're the surrounding scene and the agent within that scene. So what that becomes is narcissism, because you are the standard for your own self, and it's an achievement culture. So what have I done? Everyone assumes everyone wants to hear what they have to say, which is kind of ironic coming from a podcaster. But now there's three main problems that have arisen from extreme leftist postmodernism. And I got these from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. He's a Canadian psychologist. Please go follow. Cannot plagiarize. I can't say that I came up with these on my own, but I want to introduce them to you because he said it better than I could. Let's get to it. Number one, false revolutionary spirit. And it's actually actualized as adherence to the mainstream. So they think they're being revolutionary, but they're not. Moral superiority. It counteracts postmodernism's core pillar of subjective, relative, non-absolute morality.
What did he call me?
I mean, how can you have moral superiority when there's no definite or tangible moral standard? And then lastly, fake humility, which is a really ironically kind of hilarious mirror of that performative humility from 18th and 19th century Enlightenment reasoners and modernism. It deconstructs all cultural commonality points, and it obliterates one of the most essential things to a healthy culture and a healthy society, which is unifying meta-narratives. There is no such thing as a unifying meta-narrative according to a postmodernist, especially an extreme leftist, deep blue postmodernist, aka the woke power structures. That's like literally the last time I'm going to say woke, because it makes me cringe. Lastly, it separates all sentient beings into two groups, and that is a system of control, categorization. We're going to talk about it in season 5. So this is where I get to tell you, make sure you're subscribed. I'm just so good at foreshadowing. Like, I literally don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying, I'm just going to watch a masterpiece in motion every time. Postmodernism's intent is to be expansive and inclusive and equitable. But where leftism and extremism is twisted, it is where they make it purely reductive instead. You either are privileged or oppressed, right? You're either in power or you're not. You have to live by a certain code of whatever category they put you in. That's a system of control. That's it, done and dusted. The fighters have been introduced. Now let's ring the bell. Ding, ding, ding. Listen, Sunrise Lounge, I've been thinking about this. I know who you are. I know what you want to do. I really know what you want out of life, and I want to help you out. So I've got a solution for you. Throne Creator Wish List. This is a place where I can create a specific list of tangible items that you can contribute to. It's crowdsourced, so you can donate as little as $10, super easy, or you can outright buy the whole item and see it live in action in the Sunrise Lounge studio. Again, I know what you want to do. I'm trying to help you out here. Jump on the Throne Creator Wish List. The link is in the description below, and check out the list of items that you can contribute to directly to see grade A, S tier, Hollywood cinema level content coming out of the Sunrise Lounge. You can subscribe on Patreon for like $10 a month as well, and then you can get some loyalty rewards, like, I don't know, this cool PC sticker or a really cool poster, or there's a mug, there's a t-shirt involved that maybe I should wear sometime. But you get that for 3, 6, 9 straight months of subbing for just $10 on Patreon. So you can go over there and do that too. Go do it. I know you want to do it. I know you're the kind of person you are. Hey, listen, Sunrise Lounge. It's been a long day. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay there. I told you I'd be back. Let's go. Day 2. Look at this fresh shave. I mean, look, just looking good. Oh my God. Wow. Outfit change. You don't see that on YouTube very often. So it's just like, let's start a trend. It's okay. I record more than one day. Right. Now that our two fighters have been introduced, we have a working framework that's going to help you make reference for the rest of the things we talk about for the season. So you're welcome. Next segment. You've probably heard names like Kant, Locke, Paine, the great Enlightenment thinkers, but you probably haven't heard of dudes like Jacques Derrida, Michael Foucault. So first off, Derrida, considered the father of postmodern thinking from the 1960s forward. He introduced the world to the idea of phonocentrism, meaning that the spoken word is vastly more important in our culture, that the written words that we have are essentially meaningless and have an infinite number of interpretations. Now, where Foucault asserted deeply revolutionary suggestions based on Immanuel Kant's ideas of baseless meaning. So Kant basically suggested that since all meaning was man-made, meaning therefore didn't actually have any meaning. And he was actually kind of onto something there when we talk about us being the standard and the agent. Foucault leaps off that cliff, and he, as well as Derrida, asserted that language is the basis and primary vehicle for knowledge. And because language is based on historical influence and human experience and human bias, it's deeply flawed. So it can't be a standard of conclusive objective truth. What's crazy is that modern postmodernism or post-postmodernism, whatever you want to call it, right now in 2024, has actually established its own brand of conclusive objective truth while saying that actually doesn't exist. So let me keep you on a secret. These postmodernists would hate this, by the way. So that's why I kind of like it's the postmodernists were right. Now, they hate being right because their end goal is not rightness or wrongness. It's really anarchy. They're actually right where they don't want to be right because there's no sense of right. But it's carefully and it fearfully deflects any notion that it's morality 2.0. So don't call it morality. But truly, it's actually a twisted form of moral standardization. So let's do something that Enlightenment thinkers would be slapping you on your back and offering overly firmly handshakes for in a split second. Let's actually examine the evidence and results and then derive a conclusion. Sunrise Lounge, just pull up your hood, strap on the seatbelt. This is one of those downshifted fluid moments. A dude you've definitely heard of is Friedrich Nietzsche. He's the famous God is dead dude. Ow. Okay. Phew, here we go. I had to listen. I just a little synthwave coffee to kind of get ready for this. So bring the quote up. Here it is. God is dead. God remains dead. And we have killed him. Now, how shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all that the world has yet owned has bled to death under our knives. And who will wipe the blood off for us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement? What sacred games shall we have to invent? Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? That last phrase is one of the most important part of that quote. I mean, look, you've got sacred games, DEI initiatives, identity politics, the two-party system of control. The list goes on. We've established festivals of atonement. Look at Pride Month as an example. Celebrated human depravity. We have attempted to make ourselves gods. And that is where the new pioneers step in. We seek that God is dead chaos, that post-God society chaos. We seek that wilderness of thought. It's our primary directive to bring light to that darkness and bring as many in our spheres of influence to the light before the end. Wokeism is a massive monster, and it's 100% daunting to even consider just standing against it, let alone attacking it actively, right? Not just defending against it. Woke is just extremist, politicized, twisted, postmodern thought. It's actually the antithesis of true classic postmodernism. New pioneers stand for rational thought. We allow for skepticism and dissent, the free exchange of ideas, and that's where postmodernism has twisted our culture. The ideas it sparks have developed back into the very thing that the original postmodern thinkers were trying to escape from, which is what they perceived as dogmatic, unmoving, unbending tyranny of thought, which is exactly what we've got now. Because if you look at it rationally with the evidence that we have, you have to speak a certain way. You have to rainbowize your company logo each June. You have to hire a certain quota of minoritized or disadvantaged individuals. You have to use inclusive language where they claim words have no meaning because there are infinite numbers of solutions to a finite number of problems or ways of describing things. They are with literally the same stroke demanding that language be used in a hyper-specific, reductive, and exacting way that any other usage of language is evil and hateful. It's a system of control. And it goes back to the Enlightenment thinker Immanuel Kant, whose categorical imperative says, quote, commands or moral laws all persons must follow regardless of their desires or extenuating circumstances. Where Kant says regardless of extenuating circumstances, wokeism demands that extenuating circumstances introduce tailored imperatives. And that's a new phrase that I'm establishing right in real time, right before your eyes. So you're welcome. Firm handshakes. Tailored imperatives. That is the intellectual tyranny of postmodernism and based wokeism. To really just drive this point like really far home, we're going to rip one of my favorite dudes, George Orwell from Animal Farm. He said, one commandment ruled the farm. All animals are equal. Great. But some animals are more equal than others. So postmodernism rejects the Enlightenment thinking of like the absolute hypocrisy of phrases like all men are created equal. Yeah, sure, everyone is equal, but women, transhumans, queer people, black people, insert minoritized other group besides Asians and whites are more equal than others according to leftist extremists that are based on what they think is postmodern thought. Think about these tailored imperatives, these categorizations. All whites are racist and you can't be racist to white people. All blacks are oppressed, and any behavior in which they engage is not a product of any degenerate behavior, but rather a product of racism and oppression. All gays are morally right, no matter what they do, no matter how depraved. It's why traditional pride parades are now just showcases of human depravity, animalism, nudism, pedophilia, or minor attracted persons, like whatever you want to call it. Like, what kind of philosophy is that? It's just, so let's bring this home, Sunrise Lounge. We've introduced these two fighters, the Enlightenment thinkers, postmodern thinkers. What's really happened is that now that the power systems are in place and the people that are running them are leftist and extremists, they've actually established exactly what postmodernism originally, classically, was totally against, which is a system of power, a system of control. So where postmodernity has led us is to a point of absolute intellectual tyranny. That's why think while it's still legal. It's in the intro for a reason. There's an extremely narrow dogma of thought based on this philosophy, which asserts that there is no standard. Postmodernism is actually a non-negotiable standard. It's just a new definition of right and wrong. Instead of totally eliminating the idea of right and wrong and that moral matrix, it's a weaponization of leftist morality. And so the antidote to that, as I promised, thank you for sticking through, is the new pioneers. It's people like you, people like me. No one's coming over the hill to rescue us, the new pioneers. It is up to us not only to defend against intellectual tyranny, but to actively go out and pursue attacking it and getting that change done in our spheres of influence. And that's it, Sunrise Lounge. Firm handshakes for listening. Make sure you interact, get down in the chat, talk to me in the chat, put something in there and I will respond to it. Make sure you're connecting with us on all the social platforms. X has a ton of cool stuff. I've actually got some really cool, like personal, like original digital artwork coming out on the Sunrise Lounge Instagram. And of course, you don't want to miss it on Patreon or that Throne Creator wish list. If you want to support the Sunrise Lounge, those are the two best ways to do it. And of course, I make my own custom Spotify playlist. The music is so good, if I don't say so myself. All the links are in the link tree in the description. But before we go, be truthful, be moderate, and be sincere. And that is it. We are done and dusted. Sunrise Lounge, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Remember, pull up your hood, stay smart. I'll see you on the next one.